Hello, beautiful people. My name is Kristen. Thank you for stopping by my channel to hear some book reviews. And I'm pretty excited about the diversity I've read in the past couple weeks. I have nonfiction, I have classics, and actually some classics that I don't hear a lot of people talking about. And I'm really excited to share those with you. I have like 3 fiction books. It's a nice range. It's like, I don't always do that on purpose, but when it happens, it's just a beautiful thing. So I will start out with just a small mention that I did DNF a book, The Infinite Country by Patricia Engels. So this book is just not for me. Beautiful cover. The premise of the book is, I read half of it. It starts out kind of with a woman who has gotten herself kind of in trouble in Colombia. She lost her temper and committed a fairly violent crime out of passion, but is trying to escape / get into visit some of her or live with some of her relatives in the United States. Technically, she was born in the United States to immigrant parents who were in the US actually illegally at that point. It got to be really a political hot mess kind of story, and you were supposed to be sympathizing with a family that was repeatedly breaking the law, just on a number of levels. And though I can appreciate why they were doing it, it was not life-threatening. It was just it was for the wrong reasons. And I just as somebody who does care a lot about this issue, it was not the book for me. But I could see how maybe other people might want to give that one a chance. So there's my quick little summation of that one. My nonfiction, I do wish more people would read. This is the Thomas Sowell, Discrimination and Disparities. So he is an economic professor, and he was a black man, grew up in the South, but then educated in the North, just well-versed in so many circles, understanding a lot of political realm as well as just an expert on economics. And this is a book that is talking not only about discrimination of all types, but how does that fit into the economic policy, and when is it not helpful to label things discrimination when really that's unhelpful to do, like when does helping hurt kind of thing. And I just really appreciated his voice and his insight, and a lot of things that I was having trouble kind of summarizing but were in my mind, he puts words to, and I just really appreciate that. And I just feel like if more people had these kind of dialogues, that things could go a lot smoother, because we get so emotionally involved when we're talking about discrimination, because we've all in some ways been in a position where we have been unfairly judged. Some people obviously have that happen to them a lot more than others. However, that is oftentimes a miscommunication and not actually a prejudice or he called them discriminations 1 and discriminations 2, and that technically discrimination 1 in his examples was actually kind of helpful when it was, recognized as differences, and then discrimination 2 was the one that was the one you want to avoid, that is purely unfair and just labeling and really actually goes against the economy. So anyway, really highly, highly recommend that if you have any interest in economics at all. Now, my fiction books, I did finish my mammoth that I didn't finish in March, Robert Jordan's Knife of Dreams. This is the 11th in the Wheel of Time series. So not going to give much plot, but if you watched Wheel of Time on TV, or you just understand general high fantasy, this is a really good one. Not quite as much happened. This is kind of leading up to the final battle, so I look forward to picking up the next one and seeing where it goes from there. I also read this beautiful little copy, If Cats Disappear from the World. This is Genki Kawamura, a Japanese kind of folklorish telling of a man who's dying, but he can make a deal with the devil to have something disappear from the world for another day of survival. And so each day something disappears, and he has to decide, is he going to allow this thing to disappear from the world, or is it his time? And so if you liked these little philosophical, but if you like Tuesdays with Maury, if you like Before the Coffee Gets Cold, this is another one of those books. And it's just a really good telling of that kind of philosophical story. And a lot of times, even though the story itself is short, not a whole lot of details, but it makes you start thinking, what would that be like? And if I was in that position, would I even consider this kind of thing? So a fun little book. Then I did read Charles Martin's The Mountain Between Us. I wasn't sure about this. It is predominantly it's a survival story of a plane crash into vast wilderness, man and woman. The woman's engaged to be married like very soon. The man's married, and so they are trying to survive. They're trying to, get help, basically, save their lives. And they have so many obstacles, so much going on. It's just one of those that's a quick read, because you're always like, what's going to happen? Or how are they going to get out of that? And I was worried that it would turn into like an excuse to have an affair kind of book. But I can tell you, I liked it. I really genuinely thought that even that was handled beautifully and realistically. And I just this is a 5-star book for me. Love it. Totally recommend it. Haven't seen the movie, but now I want to. So I have heard, though, someone did warn me that the movie was actually a deviant from the book. So maybe I'll go into that, at least knowing that. Now, my 2 classics that I really want to talk about, Henry James, The Portrait of the Lady. So I talked a little bit about Daisy Miller. It's a very short book. This is very similar. Now, he has really beautiful, poetic, lots of nature descriptions and such in his writing style. And he's very much that classical author that everything is high drama. And when a beautiful, well-off woman comes around, everybody is just madly in love with her. Like, not even like, some people would say, oh, I'm gonna go get her for her money, or she'd be good looking on my arm. No, they like legitly want us to believe that there is like swooning and like, life is going to end for these men if they are not with this woman. And so to me, that's a big suspension of disbelief, but I find that motif in classics a lot. Now, having said that, this one was very engaging in the sense that she's an American woman who does not have to marry, but all these different things are happening in her life that, you're along for the ride trying to figure out what she's going to do and who she's going to end up with. And then some of those choices start leading to a lot of high drama and what I would say is even a little melodramatic. And, when you're in the mood for that, which I kind of was when I was in this place, I'm here for it. I'm down for that. So when you're wanting that kind of high classical, what I just described, this one is actually not bad, although it's a little lengthy. I'm going to give it, there were some things that drug out a little much and I was a little bored and ready to move on, but then it did. So now the last one I want to talk about, I have never heard of this author. It is Frank YERBY, and YERBY, YERBY. I'll put his name across the bottom there. But I found this at a library sale, and it's like water damaged. It but it was $1, and I started reading the first line, which I think I shared in my TBR, but says, when it was over, it was not really over, and that was the trouble. But they thought it was, and the feeling was a good one. And I just stopped. I thought, I have no idea what this is about, but I really love that opening. It kind of is very gripping in it was the worst of times, best of times, those kind of opening lines that just kind of go, what the heck is going on? What's going on with it? Anyway, it is a story of, and this came out in 1947, but it's a story in the 1800s, right after the Civil War has finished. There was a family in Louisiana two brothers or two sons. The one had gone off to New York to make some business and make a name for himself up there. The Civil War starts. He becomes an officer for the Union. Meanwhile, the other brother in Louisiana becomes an officer for the Confederates. So you had this kind of situation. Both of them survive, but the younger brother has a wife, and his wife's sister, who was a child when the older brother left, has now become 16 and has been raised predominantly by her grandfather, who has brought her up to be very independent, very self-assured, really leading with her sexuality even. So this girl gets her sights on the older brother, and supposedly, even though he was a Union traitor side, all the women are like, hey, good family, and then there's also, this family came as wealthy plantation owners. So it is a hard book to read in the sense that you are definitely immersed in a lot of the situation where the South has just lost. They are trying to figure out, how is it that we're going to comply with freeing all of our slaves, paying them? How are we going to adjust to this culturally? It's not like a light switch. And so the human stories and things that were going along are both like harrowing to read about, but felt very gritty and accurate to what I would imagine could happen. And I really liked that the older brother comes back with a sense of understanding that slavery really is inhumane and not a good thing, and really has a lot of the beliefs of the North. And so he's like now trying to help, but there is a huge price to pay when you become the other voice. And so it just was interesting in that historical fiction kind of way, and that's what the author is known for. However, it's spicy because you have this 16-year-old that's after him, but really she's not good stock, and he's got interests in another beautiful woman who has all the right credentials, and then something really traumatic happens to her, and so he's trying to support her, and this other, and it becomes very tumultuous and just a lot of spicy, crazy. And his other book that supposedly was the same storyline had the story of the parents, right? The establishing of the plantation. That was called The Foxes of Harrow. And basically the father had a bunch of affairs and had babies from some of the slaves. And so it was considered really scandalous that, this was told from the viewpoint of this family that was basically well-to-do and accepted, and these kind of more unconventional things were coming out. So I'm talking about this a little bit much, but I've never really heard anybody else talking about Frank Yerby. So I really liked it. I thought it was really, really engaging, and I was all prepared, for $1, just try it, to say, if I don't like it, I'll just DNF it. But no, I really wanted to know what was going to happen, how this was going to end, what was going to be the result of all of this. How were these people going to handle these kind of injustices and these new laws that they didn't always agree with? And I really highly recommend it. I don't know about all his other works, but I do think that I would definitely pick up another one if I come across it. So I'll be looking for him now. But there you go, the Vixens. So that's what I've been reading. I hope that you have been finding lots of awesome things to read. If you want to read any of these now after I've talked about them, leave me a comment below. Let me know if you have read any and want to leave a comment. It's long as it's not a spoiler, indicate that for people. But let's meet in the comments, discuss books. I hope that you have a great day. Happy reading, y'all.